inspired to push through. Because there's a spark in you. Breakthrough or bust. Hello and welcome back to Breakthrough or Bust. I am so excited to have Barbara Ellison with us here today, and she is the author of some books such as Ready to Rise and The Impactors, which you can see up on the shelf behind her. Yeah. They look amazing, and I actually want to just let you introduce yourself, Barbara. Tell us about you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And those being part of, like one of the things, so many people, well, let's start with that. So many people want to write a book. Mm-hmm. But the best place to start is be part of a compilation book, which is what those two books are. So you write a chapter, it gets your feet wet. So that's my little tip for that. Because so many people want to write a book and have no idea how to start. Be part of a compilation book.
And there's so many different topics. I think a lot of people think it has to be about business, but no, not necessarily, not at all.
Nope.
No, at a certain point, that might be what we do, is take all these stories that everybody shares in this and make a breakthrough or bust book.
That's exactly it. And a friend of mine helps people to do that.
Oh,
friend of mine, she's marvelous. She helps people to do that. But my name is Barbara Ellison, and I just love the fact that I'm on a mission to make happiness the norm rather than the exception. The thing is that part of happiness is leading the life that you're meant to lead. And I truly believe that each and every one of us deserves to lead a happy, healthy, financially free, abundant life. The thing is, though, sometimes we don't always know how to do that.
Yes.
And that's where I was when my husband passed away. I did not expect to be a widow so young. And so that was the beginning of my journey and how I got to be here now. And I love helping people that were where I was.
Mm-hmm. I love that you say deserve. So many times I think people say, well, that's for other people. But exactly. I keep bringing to the forefront, if you desire it, you deserve it. And that's it. It's for you. If you have even had the thought, then it's for you.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I say is if you have thought it, if you have gone through it, if you have survived it, and you're on the other side of it, whatever that it is, then you need to get it out there, because somebody else in the world has thought it, done it, is in it, and don't know how to get out of it.
That means you need to come here to break through or bust.
That means you need to come
and share that story.
And share your story.
Yeah.
And so I'll just share my story.
Yeah, let's hear your story.
Because it's my story. Mm-hmm. And it was so personal to me, and it was scary, and it was exhilarating, and it was like one of those. But it started with a tragedy. I did not expect to be a widow at 60. Yeah. My husband took sick, and I took care of him for 2 years, and then he didn't make it. He passed away. And when I came out of my widow's fog, which is really a real thing, I know that I'm going to tell a funny thing. The only thing I remember from that first year after David died was that I watched all 10 years of Frasier. Other than that, I know that I went to work. I know that I ate. I know that I did things. I know that I played with my grandchildren, but the actual, no. I remember walking around the house just crying, carrying the teddy bear and David's picture.
Oh,
all of that grief. And
yeah.
But I can tell you the day I woke up. And that was one of the scariest days of my life, because I woke up and it was I cannot go on like this for another minute. Something has to give. The only problem was I had no idea who I was, what I wanted, or how to get it.
Mm.
And in that moment, that was the most scariest feeling of being lost. Who am I? Outside of all of the labels that I had put on myself and that society puts on us of being, daughter, then being wife, then being mother, but then being divorced. So being a failure. Oh, but then I was a success again, because then I was a wife again. Then I was a grandmother. Now I'm a widow.
Mm-hmm.
Who was Barbara in all of that?
Mm.
And I had no clue.
But what I love about that is you didn't even have to know.
I did.
You didn't have to know what to do.
No,
You just
right.
knew you were ready.
I knew that something had to change.
Yeah.
And that's the key. When you know something has to change. And that's why I love working with midlife people, because sometimes it's not necessarily a tragedy. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's just an awareness that you wake up one morning and it can be something small, some catalyst. You never know that, you know what? The life that I am leading right now is not the one I want.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do it for another 30 years or 40 years. People coming up to retirement, they've built a corporate career, they've climbed the corporate ladder, and now they realize that their corporate ladder is built leaning against the wrong building. Mm-hmm. That kind of thing. We have women that are coming up to being an empty nester. Yeah. Oh, yike. Now what? I've been a wife and a mother. Now what? All of those feelings of being lost and not knowing who you are, and not knowing who you are within what you do. You might really enjoy your career, mm-hmm. but who are you within what you do?
Do you know, and not to take away from your story, but you're just bringing up to me very personal, and honestly, I haven't shared this publicly, but I had two grandparents that once mm-hmm. they got to retirement, the one pretty much drank herself into, right. The wet brain and yep. That was exactly it. The other one, and they both had great retirements, great benefits. Mm-hmm. Like this was when people retired with the good stuff, right? It was like, stuff. Now it's time to live, mm-hmm. but they didn't know who they were. And the other one actually committed suicide. Yeah. So what you're saying is so important.
So important. And, and like for myself, I'm 71. Mm-hmm. I only lost my dad 2 years ago. Yeah. He was 102.
Oh, my pop just turned 101 last week.
102. Well, his best friend that he worked with for 35 years, same company, they retired I think they started on the same day, they retired on the same day. My dad lived to be 102. His friend died at 6 months. After 6 months.
Yeah.
For exactly what we're talking about. He had no idea how to transition out of being the corporate.
Yeah, that identity.
Something he had no idea of his identity. I was very blessed in that I knew what I didn't want. Mm-hmm. I had no idea what I did want, but I knew what I didn't want. I knew that I didn't want to go on this way.
Yeah. And that's where you start.
And if you're listening to this and that's all you hear, just know that you are not alone in that. Mm. And that's one of the lies of the devil, that we are the only one that's feeling this way.
Yes.
We are not.
Yes.
There are so many people out there. And when you can take those steps to, like with me, I had to learn how to get in touch with me.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. But you know what? There's steps to do it. There's learnings. We can learn something new every day. I learned a thing today that, it's lots of times is how we define things. So my purpose, finding out your purpose is a biggie.
Yes.
And I always thought that finding your purpose had to be some big, grandiose thing. No, it's within inside you. And once I stopped and sat down and said, okay, really, Barbara, what is your purpose? Rather than looking externally, look inside, I realized that my purpose is to serve God, to learn, and then to teach others what I have learned.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what this comes under the heading. This morning, I did a fun thing about making a vision board. But out of that was a definition of the word fail. And we are so tuned that, oh, what if I fail? Oh, I can't do that, but what if I fail? Oh, but if it doesn't work, you're a failure. Well, the definition now of a fail is, I'm going to read it to you. It's the first attempt in learning.
Perfect.
Isn't that an amazing way to define the word fail?
Yes.
Because that's absolutely the truth. And when I heard that, I went, I'm going to share that. That was and here we are.
Yeah.
Because it's absolutely the truth. We are so conditioned that we can't fail. Oh, well, that didn't work. And you've only
we're not
tried
even
once.
willing to try.
And you're either not willing to try or you're not willing to try again.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny you say that. I taught for many years, I taught kids how to dance. And,
Right.
Up until, the age of 5, they would do anything you said,
Right.
like, okay, go ahead, do a little turn. They didn't care how they looked. They're just like, wee,
Exactly. Exactly.
Right about 5, you say, okay, do this pirouette. I can't.
Right.
Well, you haven't even tried. Okay. Step 1, do this. Now do this. Now do this. And now do this. And then they do it. And you're like, but you just did it. You told me you can't. They're like, but that's it.
Exactly what we do.
It becomes almost this knee-jerk reaction that if I've never done it before, I can't.
Exactly. Exactly. And, and that's what happens to people. And that's one of the things that people share with me about, like I've had several of my clients that I'm working with that have come from therapy, and I'm not knocking therapy at all. Mm-hmm. The thing is that so often with therapy, they're dealing with the things that were in the past.
Yeah. Picking the scab.
It's kind of, thank you. That's how I always felt, but you're just picking the scab. What having a coach does is that, okay, here's where you are right now. Where do you want to be a month from now? Where do you want to be a year from now? Where do you want to be 5 years from now? Where do you want to be 10 years from now? It's the forward thinking rather than getting caught up in the past, because our brain did. Because the thing is that and I was just sharing with one of my new people that your brain doesn't know the difference. It can either be stuck in the past or worried about the future.
Yeah.
It doesn't know how to do anything else.
And, someone I know just reminded me of that recently. Sometimes we get so caught up in that healing that we think that our purpose is the healing, and it's not. The healing is the conduit to our purpose,
Our purpose.
And so getting stuck in that healing is sometimes where we get. And so, you want to just use it as a tool towards where you want to go, and not,
And there are times that you will get stuck.
Yeah.
Hey, we're human.
That's it.
We are human. The thing is that don't stay there.
Yes.
Don't stay there.
So
and if you are stuck with it, ask for help.
Absolutely.
It is absolutely essential that you must reach out for help. Hey, I'm struggling with this.
And that's a big one. Ask for help from your higher source, whoever, God, your guides, whoever, from them. Ask for help from your partner. Ask for help from your friends, right? Mm-hmm. That's what people love, to be of service. Exactly. So when you ask for help, it's almost like you're completing the cycle. You like to be of service to people, allow them to be of service and receive. And now they get that opportunity to feel good.
There's give and receive. There's both sides. There's giving and receiving. There's light and dark. There's soft and hard. There's two sides of everything. Like a friend of mine and I, the other day, we were talking about some of the things that are going on right now. Some of the people with the advances that have been made in technology. Yes. Some of the people are loving it. I love the new strides in technology. I'm having to learn them. Yes, absolutely. But I'm loving the new technology. There are some friends of mine. It's like, oh brother, it just has fried their brains that they just can't get their handle around it of some of the new technology. There's both sides of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So which are you going to be on?
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing for me is it's a choice.
Yes. Yes. That
Choice.
being, it's vulnerability. Being willing to fail is vulnerable.
Exactly. So that's what I loved this morning, was the first attempt in learning. I just thought that absolutely sums up, because I can remember so often people saying, fail fast, fail forward, fail often. Then, it's like Thomas Edison. I think he's the biggest example. When somebody said to him something about how does it feel to have tried so many times to invent a light bulb, he said, I didn't fail. He said, I just found out the ways it didn't work.
Yes.
Until he found the one that did.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happens. The thing for me is, though, it starts with knowing who you are.
Yeah. So that was it. You were in this place. You didn't know how to do anything. You didn't know where you were going, but you knew you wanted the change.
I knew I had to change.
What did you do to start getting some clarity?
You know what? The very first thing I did was I joined a group coaching. And it was called The Ultimate Game of Life.
Oh.
And so that just started the process. But then I was introduced to personality science. That was huge.
And I know I had the opportunity to do this because of you. And so this is really cool. Pay attention, because tell us about personality.
One of the things is that people think that they're the way they are because they've always been that way. And some of it is conditioning, some of it is family. But one of the things that I share with people is that there are over 7 billion people on the planet. There's over 3,500 languages, but there's only 4 basic personality types. And there's the different combinations of the main ones, absolutely. And most people who are in business or in school or something have done some kind of a personality assessment. I mean, I've done DISC, I've done the color wheel, I've done GEMS, elements,
Enneagram.
Enneagram, right. There's over 200 of them. The why I like this one is that it is based on what you value. So what makes you who you are? And can I tell a funny story?
Of course.
Just to illustrate, when my husband and I got married, with the very first trip that we were going on was we were going to go on a trip, and we were going to fly from Chicago to LA, rent a car, and then drive to Las Vegas through the mountains so he could see the grandeur of Las Vegas at night, so he could see all the lights. Well, I got home one day, and he was sitting on our living room floor surrounded by maps and atlases. And I said, honey, what are you doing? He said, well, I'm planning our trip. And I went, what trip? He said, what do you mean, what trip? He said, the trip that we're going to fly out of Chicago, we're going to go to LA, and we're going to drive across the desert to go to Las Vegas. I said, well, honey, I know that trip, but that trip is in November. This is the middle of August. What are you doing? And he looked up at me in total surprise and said to me, well, when are you going to figure out how we are going to go from LA to Las Vegas? And I said, David, when I get in the rental car in LA. You're laughing.
And I tell you what, everybody who's listening is either in David's camp or in Barbara's camp. I'm Team Barbara.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And this is what happens. So, but when you know yourself, and I'm offering to have people do a free personality assessment. What you'll do is when you fill it out, you'll get a freebie, and it'll just tell you your strengths, what you value, things about yourself, because that's where it starts. And
it's so easy. It's just like 5 minutes to shift a couple things around. You just move it, and then boom, it comes up. And it's like, oh yeah, that's right on.
It's
really
on.
Cool.
Well, what I do with people is that, like, I'll have couples do it, and then all of a sudden it'll be like, oh, that's why you do that. Oh, that's why you do that. Oh, that's why we clash on that. Because
Yeah.
you can be talking about exactly the same thing, but you're coming from two different perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
And when you can understand personality, like, I'll give you a brief description of some of the personalities. We call it bank.
Yes.
The B is for blueprints. The blueprints, they tend to be much more structured. They like having a schedule. Don't be late with them. They like having a system. They like having a process. They like knowing the step by step.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get the action people, that they're the kind of the more out there, outgoing, just, yeah, whatever, fly by the side of my pants, fly by the seat of our pants, and we're just going to go after it and just do it impromptu. That kind of thing. They tend to be sports people and that kind of stuff. Then you get us nurturers, that we want to make a difference in the world.
That was
We
mine.
want to be part of a community. We want to help other people to get what they want. We want to be part of a team. Those kinds of things. What impact? Well, then, of course, you get the knowledge people, that they're the ones that want to know all the details. They want to know all the data, all the research. So if you are a researcher and you're with somebody who is an instantaneous, well, researchers, what do? They research.
Mm-hmm.
You get an action person who wants to just take, well, let's just do it now. Are they going to clash? So like what you talked about, if you had somebody like my husband and you had somebody like me, do you think we clashed? Sometimes. Yes, it became funny. It became one of the funny stories of our marriage. However, there were times when we butted heads, because my spontaneous, well, let's just go help this person, butted up against, but we have to have a plan first.
Yeah. Spontaneity does not require a plan.
Spontaneity does not require a plan. And that's a good way of putting it. I'll have to remember that. But you know what? That's what sometimes it does.
Yeah.
And because my youngest son was like my husband.
Oh,
So
wow.
now, yeah. And I would call him up on Saturday morning and say, hey, let's do breakfast in an hour. Did that go over well? No. Now I text him 2 weeks ahead of time. Hey, yeah. I'm off. Would Saturday or Sunday work better for you? Morning or afternoon? Or do you want to do lunch or dinner? And we've planned, it takes us 2 weeks to plan.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then with blueprints, always make sure you're early. So if we say 9 o'clock, I make sure that I am there at 20 to 9.
Wow.
10 after,
yeah.
Not 10
yeah.
after. Not
I love this so much, because what it does is it just brings some understanding.
Exactly.
About the people. Yeah. The awareness of the people around you. And I feel like just in general, as a whole, we need a lot of that in our communities. And, they talk about, like, if you're on a debate team, if you can't effectively argue the other person's point of view, you don't understand. The subject matter. And so it's that same idea. There's so much dichotomy right now, because and over silly things, like we're just worried about what one thing is versus another, right versus left, and this versus that, and it's that us versus them dichotomy. But as we start to just break it down into people and experiences, and this is a blueprint person, I get it now.
Exactly. And and that's what happens to companies and teams. If you have a team member like my husband and a team member like me, are you going to butt heads? Yes.
Yeah.
Are things going to get done? Maybe, but maybe not as effectively as what they could. And so that's one of the things that I love working with people, because it's just because you never know. And it's all part of happiness. We can't do life on our own.
Yeah.
And like for myself, my other part of me is my wellness, I'm in the wellness. And that's learning to talk to people. What do they want? And when you can know a bit of their personality, you'll know what's going to be important to them, of hearing about what your opportunity is.
Yeah.
And so it is so important but it starts with ourselves.
Yeah.
because you cannot possibly relate to somebody else until you know who you are.
Yeah. And so how did that start to guide you towards, that life of joy?
Because when I realized who I was, and I realized that, and I loved my upbringing. I did not have a rough upbringing, but I realized that I wasn't brought up. I was brought up as a blueprint. I'm totally not a blueprint. I came from a very structured family life. Well, when David died, and I married twice, blueprints. Because and I laugh about it now. For heaven's sakes, Barbara, you married two blueprints. Well, because that was what I knew.
Yeah.
But then when the rug was pulled out from under me when David died, all right, well, I've got to figure out who I am. And as I learned personality science, I realized, blueprint is my third code. It's my stress code.
Wow.
We do have a little bit, because we have a little bit of each one in our code.
Sure.
So like one of the things that I share with people, I talk about my code. Okay, so my code is NABK. And I'm a nurturer. I will help. I want to help you. I want to help you to be whatever it is that you want to be. And I will do that to the nth degree. And I will make you part of our community. I love doing that. The second part of me is the action part of me. That's the little bit of the spontaneous, which would butt up against David's planning.
Yeah.
That's where my glasses come and my bright red lipstick and my kind of sequency top.
Yes.
That's where that part comes from. But then the blueprint part, that's where do not be late. It comes out in do not be late. So when you know somebody's code, then the fourth one, this is the funny one for me. The K, they're the geeky guys. They're the geeky people. Well, I'll have to tell you, I love gadgets.
Yeah.
I love apps. You wouldn't believe on my phone, people say, Barb, what's with all the apps? Yeah, but I use them. I love apps. I love finding out about new technology, new apps, new things, because that's part of my K. So when you can realize that you are all part of all four of them, what sequence they're in and what sequence the people around you are in, because there's 24 different sequences.
Yeah.
And and it's like, and I'll tell you one other story. A friend of mine, one day we were talking, she's a total blueprint. And so one day we were going to go on a charity ride because she has a Harley trike. And so, hey, I'm all in. Let's go on this charity ride. Well, of course, the charity ride started at 10 o'clock. Well, guess what? We were there shortly after 9 because she's a blueprint.
Yes.
She wants to be in line and get everything ready. So everything is ready, registration, all that. So we were just sitting there chit-chatting and she said, I have this friend that's just absolutely driving me around the bend. And I said, well, so what's happening? She said, well, she blows me off all the time. And I said, well, tell me about her. Well, this is what's happening. And I said, well, okay, Sherry, she's an action people. They will blow you up. They want to be spontaneous. So exactly what we just talked about before. I said, what you have to do is next week, pick a day that you plan something for yourself in case this doesn't work out, but you plan to be spontaneous with her. Call her up at 9 o'clock in the morning and say, hey, do you want to go here now? She went, that's great. That's a good idea. So she started doing that. It has changed the dynamic of her friendship with this girl.
Isn't that great? And so both of their needs are being met.
Exactly. Your needs are being met. She plans, she has a backup plan that if it doesn't work out, but then she plans to be spontaneous.
That's fantastic. I love it.
It has made all the difference in her relationship. She thanks me all the time.
That's so funny.
Almost every time we see each other. It's like, gee, Barb, it has made such a difference. Even how she talks to her kids and the people around her, it has made such a difference because she can go back and reference, that's what's bugging me. Oh, let me see. And she can go back and reference.
I
And
love
that's
it.
why it's such a fun subject.
Yeah.
Such a fun subject. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I do. So it's fun.
I love it. So tell me, as you're here on the other side, what is it that you wish you knew, or that that nugget of wisdom that you would like to impart in others?
I think the biggest thing, number one, give yourself grace. It's a
Hmm.
process.
Yes,
It's a
please.
process. You're not alone.
Yeah.
But I think one of the biggest things why I truly believe doing the personality assessment will clarify and give you the opportunity to see who you are. It also gets to show you who you're not.
Hmm.
And then you can sit there and say, you know what? You can forgive yourself for the things you're not. Quit beating yourself up for the things that you're not, because that's where
Hmm.
we all compare.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm not like Susie Q down the road.
Yeah. Or like what you said, just within your own family,
Within my
so
own
many women that are
family.
drawn towards me tend to be the black sheep of their family. And
Exactly.
and people have this tendency to think that just because they're the, square peg, and what is it, round peg, square hole, whichever,
Right. Yes.
that there's something wrong with them.
Exactly. That there's
There's
something
not
wrong
anything
with them.
wrong with you. You just happen to be the different one in your element.
Right.
Sometimes that's
Exactly.
great. You want to
And
stand out,
right. Celebrate the things that you are,
Yeah.
and quit beating yourself up for the things that you are not.
Amen.
If you
Yeah.
want to work on something that you're not, that's a different story.
Yeah.
But don't let that
Yeah.
in your
Yeah.
head.
That those are your gifts usually.
Those exactly. Those are
Yeah.
the gifts, and those are the things that are going to make you successful, and what are going to draw people to you because you've survived them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I have no problem telling people that, hey, it was the most scary, disheartening to wake up and realize that I had no idea who I was.
Mm,
And what am I going to do? But now,
yeah.
8 years later, wow, I can tell you and I can teach you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It makes a difference. Makes a
Feels
difference.
really good, doesn't
It
it?
feels good.
It's
Feels
nice over on
good.
the other side.
It's nice on the other
Yeah.
side, but going through it, there were some growing pains.
Yeah.
There were some times of feeling stuck. And am I ever going to get this?
Hmm.
Absolutely.
And that's
But
the
that's when you reach
breakdown.
out. But that's when
That's
you reach out.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's so important. There tends to be a stigma about getting help, about
Yeah.
no matter what the help is, like
Right.
whether it be mental health help or
Right.
coaching,
Right.
or even talking to a friend or family member.
Right.
They're, the only thing keeping it a stigma is
Mhm.
us continuing it.
Exactly.
So just stop it right now. Stop feeding into those expectations and
Mhm.
what other people might think of you or what have you, and
Yeah.
prioritize yourself,
Right.
because you're worth it. And quite honestly,
Exactly.
it reminds me of that joke. um the guy is like drowning or something. There's a flood and the guy's on
Oh,
the
the
top of the
flood, the
roof,
guy's
and
on the
God,
roof.
please help me. And he sends,
Exactly.
a boat and then a helicopter. That no, I'm waiting on God, right? Well, that's what God does. The
Sends
source
people.
puts these resources around you,
Right.
people, and yeah, listen to the cues, those
Yeah.
signals, those
Yeah.
those messages.
And it could be such a small thing. Like one of the things that I do, and I encourage people to do, is just sit down and I call it my stop, wait, and listen exercise. And I teach people this. So we'll teach it to you. Just
Okay.
stop, get quiet, take 3 deep breaths, get quiet, but then wait.
Mhm.
So often people don't wait.
Yeah.
And then, and only then, listen for the answer.
Yeah,
Because we are all part of the same universe,
that's it.
universal learning.
And that's that
Wait for the
connecting.
answer, and
Yeah.
you will get one little small inkling.
Yep.
Like with you and I reached out to you. You said, "Hey, yeah, let's chat." It was a small inkling. And here
And I
we are.
tell you what, and that's it, you know, that listening, that
Listening.
taking the beat to pause and listen, because I have just come across some of the most amazing people, you know, in the last, I mean, at least year, but definitely these last 6 months, because I've just sort of like a message would come across and I'm like, like I felt a little like nudge,
A little tug.
little tug. And I'm like, I think I need to talk to that person. And as soon as the person starts talking, I'm like, there, I knew it. You know,
I think
as soon as I
within the
talked
first
to you,
2
I was
minutes.
like, I love you already.
Exactly. And and that's what happens.
Yeah.
But we have to get quiet. And that's where that knowing who you are, get quiet. Quit beating yourself up for the things that you're not. Celebrate the things that you are.
Yeah.
And find out what's in between.
Oh, right there. Boom. That was the mic drop. I love it. Thank you so much for being here, Barbara.
Thank you so much for having me. This was just such a fun thing. I love doing
this. Was great. And my loves, I will be, when I'm posting this for you, I will have the link to that free personality test. And it is like, you know,
90 seconds.
It's 90 seconds, but it's like, there's no, like, I have not been bombarded with emails or anything. You know, it's just there for you. It is a gift. So I highly recommend checking it out. It's very interesting.
Yeah. And one of the things that too, is that if somebody does want to find out more about it, hey, you know what? Send me a message. Say, hey, you know what? I'd love to chat with you about this, because you might be a business owner, or you might be a family, or you might whatever. There's all sorts of different ways that we can use it. And so that's it. Explore your options. Absolutely. But it starts with the freebie. Hey, you know,
exactly. It's such a great tool.
And it's a fun thing. It's a fun
well, it's a great tool for first knowing yourself, but then, you know, navigating your relationships, and relationships can be romantic, you know, friendship, it can be coworker, it can be, you know, it's just a great way to have that understanding. You know, and that's what they always say, that, you know, knowledge starts with understanding. And you can understand somebody else. That's it. Absolutely. Yeah, the world will start to change. Thank you so much, Barbara, for being here. Thank you for having me. This was amazing. And thank you all for tuning in to Breakthrough or Bust. My goodness, you know, keep pushing through, because there's a spark in you. We send you so much love. Mwah. Bye. Have a good one.